You are on the bridge of the Starship Odyssey, but you are not in command. No one is. The ship hangs motionless in the black, frozen in a grip you cannot see. Outside the main view screen, it waits, a vessel of impossible geometry. It is all perfect angles and dark, crystalline surfaces. It reflects no stars. A voice cuts the silence. Tactical Officer John Lee. Her voice is tight, a wire about to snap. No energy signature, Captain. Nothing. It's just there. She looks at you, her eyes wide. You are the ship's cultural specialist, a historian. You feel profoundly useless right now. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. The captain, Eva Rostova, stands like a statue. Her knuckles are white on her command chair. Keep hailing, she orders. Her voice is a low, gravelly thing, all frequencies, all languages. Send the universal greeting, the star charts, the mathematics. The comms officer nods, his fingers flying across his console. The only result is silence. A deep, profound silence that presses in on you. It drinks the light. It smothers all hope. You feel a strange pressure against your mind. It is not a voice. It is a presence. It feels like being watched by a mountain. It is vast and old and utterly indifferent. It does not speak. It does not need to. You are a bug in a jar, and it is simply looking at you. You have been captured. The silence of first contact is absolute, and it is terrifying. You are being pulled forward. The Odyssey shudders, not from impact, but from motion. The great dark ship before you expands. It grows until it fills the entire view screen. An opening appears on its flawless surface, a perfect hexagon of deeper blackness. There are no docking arms, no energy fields, just a void waiting to swallow you. And you are heading right for it. Captain, Rostova grips her chair. Report, she demands. Her voice does not waver. She is a rock in this silent storm. We're inside their vessel, Gian says, her voice a whisper. No hull contact, no scans are penetrating their exterior. The ship glides into the darkness. The hexagon closes behind you. You are sealed inside the perfect machine. The lights of your bridge flicker. Data streams across every screen. It is not your data, it is theirs. Star charts of galaxies you have never seen. Designs for engines that could move planets. A language made of pure mathematics. It bypasses your computers. It floods directly into your mind. You see their history, not in pictures, but in equations. A story of cold logic, of expansion, of absorbing all they encounter. They are ancient. They are vast. They are without flaw. You stumble back from your console. A headache blooms behind your eyes. The information is too much, too clean, too cold. There is no art in their archives, no music, no poetry. Only function, only purpose, only a relentless silent drive to grow. You are inside their mind, and you realize with chilling certainty they believe you are a flaw, an error to be corrected. The data stream stops. The silence returns, heavier than before. You are a specimen in their laboratory. They have learned everything about you. Your technology, your biology, your history of chaotic, emotional wars. On the main screen, a new image appears, a projection. It shows the Odyssey being disassembled, not with fire or weapons, but piece by piece, atom by atom. A calm, orderly deletion. This is not a threat. It is a statement of intent. Captain, Rostova rises from her chair. Her face is pale, but her eyes burn. Gian, she says. Weapon status. The tactical officer shakes her head. Our torpedoes bounced off their shields. Our lasers did nothing. They don't even register as attacks. Every weapon had failed. Every defense was overcome without effort. This was the end. A quiet, logical end. The captain turns to the comms officer. "Mr. Chen," she says. Her voice is clear. It cuts through the despair on the bridge. "I have one final order." Everyone turns to listen. This is it. The last gambit. The final, foolish gesture of a dying species. She will not surrender. You know her well enough for that. But what else is there? "Broadcast a new signal," she says. "Full power. Ship-wide speakers too." "Mister?" Chen looks confused. "Captain? What signal?" A ghost of a smile touches her lips. It is a sad, defiant thing. "Our culture," she says. "The archives. The old files. Start with the music. Let our last will and testament be a symphony." The bridge crew stares. Music? Against a silent god machine? It is absurd. It is insane. But it is an order. "Mister." Chen's hands hesitate over his console. He looks at the captain, seeking confirmation. She simply nods. "Find something powerful," she says softly. "Let them hear who we were." Chen takes a deep breath. His fingers move. He navigates through military codes and diplomatic protocols. He goes deep into the cultural archives. The files meant for long voyages, the reminders of home. He selects the first file his finger lands on, a piece from centuries ago, from old Earth. He hits transmit. The first notes echo on the bridge. A lone piano, simple, melancholy. Then the strings join in, a wave of sound that fills the space. It is a human sound, full of longing and sorrow, and a strange, unbreakable beauty. It is a symphony, a final message in a bottle, a testament to a species that loved and dreamed and fought. You close your eyes. You let the music wash over you. If this is the end, it is a beautiful one. The music swells. It is a wave of pure emotion, a language the silent, logical enemy could not possibly understand. On the view screen, the projection of your ship's destruction continues. Uncaring, unaffected, the symphony plays on, a defiant scream into the void. This music is your soul, your story told in notes instead of words. You are all going to die, but you will not die in silence. The symphony reaches its crescendo, a powerful, heartbreaking climax of sound. It is humanity's pain and joy combined, a weapon made of feeling. And then you see it, on the tactical display, a flicker, a single tiny anomaly. Jin Li leans forward, her eyes wide. "Captain," she whispers. "Look at this." On her screen, the perfect geometric formation of the enemy fleet is shown. Or rather, what was a perfect formation. One of the smaller escort-class vessels has drifted, only by a few meters. But it is an error, a flaw in their absolute perfection. The first one you have ever seen. It happened at the exact peak of the symphony. The music continues, softer now. A gentle, sorrowful melody. The enemy ship corrects its course. It snaps back into position. For a moment, you think it was a glitch, a sensor ghost. But then another ship wavers, and another. Their precise, crystalline patterns are becoming unstable. The music, the signal of pure emotion, is something their logic cannot process. It is a bug in their code. What is happening? "Mister?" Chen asks, his voice full of awe. You look from the wavering fleet to the captain. She's watching the screen, her expression unreadable. "They are perfect," she says, "a perfect logical machine. But music isn't logical." She turns to Chen. "Keep playing," she commands, "everything you can find." The symphony ends. For a heartbeat, the oppressive silence returns. Then Chen cues the next track and the next. You are throwing everything at them. the entire history of human music. The flaw in their perfection is a single, beautiful note. A note of chaos, a note of feeling, and it is starting to break them. The pressure in your mind changes. The cold, dispassionate observation is gone. In its place is a rising hum, a screech of static. It is the sound of a trillion minds, all experiencing confusion for the very first time. You feel it in your teeth, a high-frequency vibration of pure distress. Their silent, shared consciousness is starting to fracture. The music is a virus. It bypasses their shields and their logic. It attacks their mind directly. Passion is a poison to their cold equations. Joy is a paradox they cannot solve. Sorrow is a crippling weight on their unified thoughts. Their greatest strength, their shared mind, is now their greatest weakness. The music is tearing them apart from the inside. They are screaming, you whisper. No one else can hear it, but you feel it. A silent, psychic shriek of a mind that cannot comprehend what is happening to it. The serene God machine is discovering pain. It is discovering fear. The cracks in their crystalline mind are spreading, and your music is the hammer. Captain, Rostova sees the effect. She sees the fleet outside writhing in disarray. Her eyes gleam with a fierce, terrible light. This is a new kind of war, she says. Gian, what's their status? The tactical officer is staring at her board, mesmerized. Their energy readings are fluctuating wildly. It's chaos out there, Captain. They're not coordinated anymore. Good, the captain says. She turns to the comms officer. Chen, the archives. I want something different now. Chen looks up, his face flushed with excitement. Captain? He asks. Give me something with rage, she orders. Give me something with fire. Let's see how their logic handles a protest song. The arsenal of human art is now open. Chen's fingers fly across the console. He pulls up a new playlist. The melancholic symphonies are replaced. A driving drum beat fills the bridge. A snarling electric guitar cuts through the air. A voice roars from the speakers, a song of rebellion, of defiance, of pure, untamed anger. This is not the sound of sorrow. This is the sound of a fist being raised against injustice. The effect is immediate and devastating. The enemy fleet shudders, not just individual ships drifting. The entire armada convulses. Lights flicker across their dark, geometric hulls. One of the smaller ships flares with a brief, uncontrolled energy release. It looks like a muscle spasm. You are not just confusing them anymore. You are hurting them. Terribly. This is an attack, a sonic assault against their very consciousness. You watch the enemy fleet. They are a broken thing now. Their perfect formations are gone, replaced by a panicked, disorganized mob. A new song begins. Something faster, more aggressive. A primal scream set to music. You can feel their agony through the psychic link. It is a raw, new sensation for them, a kind of suffering they have no name for. Magnify a viewport, Captain, Rostova orders, her voice grim. The main screen zooms in on the nearest enemy ship. Through its strange, crystalline port, you can see inside. You see one of them. The Silent Ones, as they call themselves in the data burst. It is a tall, slender being, gray and featureless. It has no mouth, no eyes, just a smooth, perfect face. But that face is no longer perfect. It is twisted. The head tilts back at an unnatural angle. The long, graceful limbs twitch and jerk in a chaotic rhythm. It is a dance of pure agony. That being, this creature of pure logic, is experiencing the turbulent chaos of rage for the first time. It is a poison for which it has no antidote. It is a new kind of hell, composed and performed by humanity. You look away from the screen. A cold knot forms in your stomach. This is victory, but it is a horrible thing to watch. You are not destroying their ships. You are torturing their minds. You are forcing a species that has never felt anything to feel everything all at once. The cost of your survival is their sanity. A part of you wonders if the price is too high. The song changes again, a powerful, soaring rock anthem, a song about hope and fighting back. To you, it is inspiring. To them, it is another wave of unbearable torment. Another ship outside simply goes dark. Its systems fail. It tumbles lifelessly into the void. Another casualty of a beautiful, terrible weapon. The chaos in their fleet reaches its peak. Their silent, shared mind is shattered. It is no longer a unified consciousness. It is a chorus of 1,000,000,000,000 screaming souls, each trapped in a prison of newfound, agonizing emotion. They cannot fight. They cannot think. They can only feel. And they cannot bear it. One of their largest vessels, a command ship by its design, turns. It does not fire. It does not threaten. It simply flees. Its engines flare, and it streaks away into the blackness. That single act breaks the spell. The rest of the fleet follows. The invincible armada, the perfect, logical empire, turns and runs. They flee in every direction. A broken, terrified mob running from a ghost, running from a feeling. On the bridge of the Odyssey, the rock anthem fades into silence. The view screen shows an empty patch of space. They are gone, all of them. The great fleet that held you helpless just minutes ago has shattered. It is over. For a long moment, no one speaks. There is only the soft hum of your ship's life support. Then, Mr. Chen lets out a shaky, triumphant laugh. Jianli slumps into her chair, covering her face with her hands. A single choked sob of relief escapes her. You look at the captain. She stands by her chair, watching the empty space where the enemy was. Her face is grim, victorious, but grim. You survived. You won. You are alone in the void, damaged but alive. But your song is not. The final broadcast was sent at full power. It is still traveling outwards, a sphere of human emotion expanding at the speed of light. Every human colony is hearing it, every listening post, every alien ship in this sector of the galaxy. They are all hearing your final, desperate act. They are hearing the symphonies. They are hearing the rock anthems. And through their own sensors, they are seeing the result. They are seeing the empty space where the invincible architects used to be. The silent, ones who have conquered and absorbed worlds for millennia. They just watch them run from a simple melody. Your comms console lights up, 100 different hailing frequencies at once. From human worlds, from alien governments you have never even heard of. They are all asking the same question. What was that? What did you do? The story of your encounter, the battle won by a song, is spreading. You survived because of your art, because of the illogical, chaotic, beautiful noise your species creates. A new age has just begun. Humanity, once a minor player on the galactic stage, now holds the most potent weapon imaginable. You did not fire a single shot, but you have just won the most important battle in your history. A galaxy now hears your song, and it is terrified. The journey home is long. You limp through the starways, your ship scarred but functional. The news of your victory travels faster than you do. By the time you reach the Sol system, you are not just survivors. You are legends. You are the heroes of the anthem. the crew of the ship that made the silent gods scream and run. There are no quiet dockings. Your arrival is a global event. Fleets of smaller ships escort you to Earth's orbit. Their pilots cheer over the comms. When you finally disembark, the crowds are immense. Parades are held in your honor. Captain Rostova, Jianli, Mr. Chen, your names are known by every man, woman, and child. You are the saviors of your species. You are called to speak before world leaders. You tell them the story, the silence, the perfect logic of the enemy, the desperation, and the music. You describe the moment you realized their flawless minds could not process emotion. You explain how a simple song became a weapon. Your story changes everything. Humanity is no longer afraid. It is proud, and it is dangerous. You return home not as a victim, but as a victor. Your species, once on the verge of extinction, now stands as a new power in the galaxy. The encounter with the Silent Ones was meant to be your end. Instead, it was your beginning. The Odyssey is placed in a museum, a monument to the day humanity's soul became its shield and its sword. But in the quiet moments, you remember. You remember the silent scream in your mind. You remember the twisting, featureless face on the view screen. You are a hero, but you carry the memory of their agony. You helped to save your world. But you wonder if you have lost a part of your own soul in the process. This victory feels heavy. It is the burden of a beautiful, terrible weapon. A great debate begins. It rages across all the human worlds, on news networks, in universities, in the halls of power. Is it right? Is it ethical to use this new weapon? To weaponize the very core of your being, your art, your emotions? Philosophers and poets argue against it. They call it a perversion, a monstrous act of psychic violation. Military leaders and strategists argue for it. They call it the perfect deterrent. A weapon that defeats enemies without destroying cities. A war that can be won without a single life lost. They argue that the Silent Ones started the conflict. They would have erased humanity without a second thought. Is it not right to use any means necessary to survive? You are called to testify before a new interstellar council. They ask for your opinion. You, the cultural specialist who saw it firsthand. You stand before them, the weight of worlds on your shoulders. You describe the cold, indifferent logic of the enemy, their plan to disassemble you. But then you describe their silent agony, the suffering you witnessed. It was not a clean victory, you tell them. We did not break their ships. We broke their minds. We taught a passionless species the meaning of terror. The council is divided. The public is divided. Humanity has found its ultimate weapon. But now, it must decide if it has the right to use it. The burden of your beautiful weapon is a choice that will define your species for all time. Weeks turn into months. The debate continues, but while the politicians argue, the military acts. Listening posts are established along the frontier. Deep space probes are sent toward the territory of the Silent Ones. Humanity is on high alert. You cannot assume they are gone forever. You cannot assume they will not adapt. Then, the first reports arrive. They are sparse at first, strange signals from the darkness. The listening posts are picking up broadcasts from their space. At first, it is just static, a wall of meaningless noise, a crude attempt to block any potential sonic attacks. It is a sign of fear, but it is also a sign of intelligence. Then the signals change. The static resolves into patterns, simple, repeating tones, pulses of pure frequency. It is clumsy, it is ugly, but it is a clear attempt to communicate, or rather, to build a defense. They are analyzing your music. They are trying to understand its structure. They are trying to build an immunity, a countermeasure. The silence is over. The silent ones are learning to listen. Their broadcasts become more complex. They are mimicking the rhythms of your songs. They are creating their own crude melodies. They are not art. They are equations. They are sterile, soulless sounds designed to cancel out emotion, to create a psychic shield. An arms race has begun, not of ships and lasers, but of songs and souls. A new project is authorized, the most ambitious undertaking in human history, Project Anthem. The goal is simple: to create the ultimate song. A piece of music so powerful, so emotionally resonant, that no defense can withstand it. To forge a note that can kill a god. They bring you in as a consultant. You work with the galaxy's greatest minds, composers and musicians, psychologists and data artists, military tacticians and star science experts. You work in a secret facility, buried deep within a moon of Jupiter. Your laboratory is a recording studio. Your weapon is a grand piano. You analyze the new signals from the enemy, their cold, logical anti-music. You see how it is designed to nullify specific emotional frequencies. So you devise a new plan. The final song cannot be one emotion. It must be all of them, at once. A symphony of paradox. It is a masterpiece of controlled chaos. It contains the soaring joy of a new discovery, the quiet grief of a lost love, the burning rage of injustice, the serene peace of a sunset. It is a testament to everything human, every feeling, every hope, every fear. It is the chorus of humanity. It is a song that no single mind can process. A weapon forged from the very essence of your species. You stand on the bridge of a new flagship, the UNS Anthem. It is the lead vessel of the new fleet. A fleet designed not for combat, but for performance. Its main weapon is not a cannon. It is a massive, resonance-tuned broadcast array. You are back in the darkness, waiting. You are no longer just a cultural specialist. You are now the maestro of a battle fleet. On the view screen, they appear. The fleet of the silent ones. They emerge from the blackness in a new formation. It is no longer perfect geometry. It is a discordant, jagged pattern. Their ships have changed. They are covered in strange new antenna arrays. They are ready for you. Your comms officer speaks. Captain, they are broadcasting. A sound fills the bridge. It is low and grating. A hum of pure logic, an anti-song. It is designed to create a field of psychic nullification, to render your weapon useless. This is it, the final test, the war for the galaxy's soul. Captain Rostova, older now, her face etched with the lines of command, turns to you. She does not need to give the order. Your hands are already on the console. The master file is ready. The chorus of humanity. The fate of the worlds rests on one last performance. One final, beautiful, terrible song. Maestro, the captain says, her voice steady. Begin the performance. You press the key. The first note rings out. Not a single instrument, but 1,000 at once. A wave of pure, complex emotion. It slams against their wall of logic. The duel begins. On the view screen, the two fleets rush toward each other. The war has come, and its opening shot is a symphony. You are on the bridge of the starship Defiance. It is the flagship of the Terran Defense Fleet. Today was supposed to be a quiet patrol, a standard run through the Kepler borderlands. The universe, however, had other plans. Alarms blared without warning. The ship shuddered once, a deep, resonant thrum. Every screen on the bridge shifted to the main viewer. The sight stole the breath from your lungs. A fleet of unknown ships had just arrived. They did not warp in with a flash of light. They simply appeared, as if tearing holes in reality itself. The ships were massive things, geometric nightmares of black, unreflective material. They eclipsed the stars behind them, creating a new constellation of absolute nothing. Your captain, Eva Rostova, stood firm on the command deck. Her knuckles were white on the railing. "Status report," she commanded. Her voice cut through the rising panic. An officer replied, his voice tight. "No energy signatures on approach, Captain. They just showed up." Standard hails were sent on every known frequency. Universal greetings, mathematical constants, even a few desperate pleas for peace. The response was a profound and unnerving silence. These beings were not interested in talking. They hung in the void like tombstones. Silent, patient, judging. You called them the Silenti. It seemed fitting. Hours turned into a tense, waiting game. The crew of the Defiance held its collective breath. You watched the silent ships, wondering what moved behind those dark holes. Suddenly, a communication request. Not audio, not visual. It was a pure data stream, a waterfall of information flooding your systems. Our best translation algorithms worked furiously. The message finally resolved on your screen. It was not a greeting. It was a declaration. There was no poetry, no room for misunderstanding. The message was cold, precise, and utterly terrifying. You are in error. It began. The words chilled you more than the void outside. A biological anomaly in a logical universe. Your chaotic existence is a statistical imbalance. We are the solution. The message concluded with a simple, final statement. The correction will now commence. There was no malice in the words, just the detached certainty of a mathematician erasing a mistake. Captain Rostova read the translation aloud. Her voice remained steady, a rock in a sea of fear. "So they think we're a rounding error," she said. A grim smile touched her lips for a moment. "They've clearly never met humanity." She straightened her uniform. "They are about to get a lesson in chaos." The captain gave the order. "All ships, fire at will." The Terran fleet unleashed its fury. Bright lances of plasma seared the darkness. Kinetic slugs, the size of small moons, raced toward the enemy. A storm of missiles painted the void with fire. It was the greatest show of force in human history. You watched the volley cross the distance. It was a beautiful and terrible sight, a wave of human ingenuity and defiance. The first plasma bolt struck the lead Silenti ship. They splashed against its surface like water. Not even a scorch mark was left behind. The energy was simply absorbed, vanished. Then the kinetic slugs arrived. They should have shattered the alien hull. They should have torn through its heart. Instead, they flattened against the surface. They were absorbed into the black material. The missiles detonated in silent, hopeful explosions. Their energy bloomed, and then was swallowed whole. It was like throwing rocks at a god. A collective gasp went through the bridge. Your best weapons were nothing. Your greatest power was insignificant. The Silenti ships did not even seem to notice. They began to move, not to attack, but to dissect. One of our frigates, the Valiant, was caught in a tractor beam. It was pulled apart, piece by piece, with the calm precision of a surgeon. Panic began to set in. The fleet was being dismantled. Ships were disabled or destroyed with chilling efficiency. The Silenti weapons were surgical. They didn't explode. They simply erased matter. On the bridge, an ensign was openly weeping. You could not blame him. Hope was a dying star. Captain Rostova's face was a mask of stone. She had watched a dozen good ships perish. She had exhausted every conventional strategy. She turned away from the main view screen. "Commander," she said, "initiate the Ariadne Protocol." The bridge crew froze. The name was spoken only in whispers. A myth. A legend. The Ariadne Protocol was the ultimate last resort. A plan devised for a foe that could not be fought. It was designed for a threat beyond weapons. It was a desperate gamble on an unknown variable. The commander hesitated for a second. "Captain, are you certain?" She nodded once. "Do it." She then turned her gaze to you. You were the ship's cultural specialist, the historian, the archivist. Your role was usually quiet, scholarly. Now, the fate of everyone rested on your shoulders. "Specialist," the captain said. Her voice was low. "The protocol calls for a non-conventional broadcast. Find me something, not a weapon, not a threat. Something else." You ran to your station. Your hands flew across the console. The ship's archives opened before you. A universe of human culture. Millions of files. Speeches of tyrants and heroes. Treatises on star science and art. The entire recorded history of a loud, messy species. What could possibly work? You filtered out everything military. No battle cries, no war anthems. You needed something that defied their cold logic. Something they could not compute or absorb. You scrolled past visual arts. Paintings and sculptures meant nothing without eyes to see. You needed sound. Pure, unadulterated sound. You pulled up the audio archives. Countless languages, historical speeches. The first words spoken on Mars. It was all just information, data. The Silenti ate data for breakfast. It would be useless. You felt a spike of despair. This was an impossible task. What sound could save them? Then you saw it. A dusty corner of the archive. A section labeled Old Earth, Classical Music. A relic from a forgotten time. Long before star travel. Long before the Great Expansion. You opened a file at random. The composer was called Debussy. The piece was named Clair de Lune. Moonlight, a simple piano melody. It was perfect. You looked up at the captain. "I think I have something." Your voice was shaking slightly. "It's old, very old, from before the diaspora." The captain strode over to your console. She listened to a few seconds of the piece. Just a gentle, flowing melody. Her expression was unreadable. "What is it?" she asked. "It's called music," you replied. "It's structured sound meant to evoke emotion." A strange concept to explain in the middle of a battle. The captain considered it. "Emotion," she repeated softly. Their message had none. "Do it. Broadcast it. All channels, maximum power." She was trusting you completely. You routed the audio to the main communications array. You bypassed all the safety limiters. The comms officer looked at you, bewildered. "Sir, this could damage the transmitters." You just nodded. "Then it will be a glorious death." You pressed the final command. The broadcast began. Across the dark void, a sound unlike any other radiated from the Defiance. Not the shriek of weapons, not the data of a surrender, just the soft, clear notes of a single piano. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a new message from the Silenti. It was different this time. The data was agitated. The translation appeared. "Cease this auditory chaos immediately." The message was a revelation. It was the first crack in their perfect logical armor. Chaos. They called it chaos. But the music was anything but. It was complex, mathematical in its own way. Yet it was filled with something they could not process. Captain Rostova saw it too. A predator's smile crept onto her face. "They don't like it," she whispered. She looked at you. "You gave them a simple melody. What happens if we give them more?" You knew exactly what she meant. Your fingers danced on the console. You searched the archives again. You found another piece. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Not just a piano, a full orchestra. "Let's see how they handle this," you muttered. You cued the file. The simple piano of Claire de Lune faded out. For a heartbeat, there was silence again. Then, the void erupted. The four most famous notes in human history boomed across space. Da, 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 doom. It was not a melody. It was a statement, a challenge. The full orchestra kicked in, a raging storm of violins, a thunder of percussion, the triumphant cry of brass horns. It was a wave of overwhelming, structured sound, a symphony of human passion and defiance. You turned the volume up until the ship itself seemed to vibrate with the music. You were conducting a war with a dead composer's masterpiece. The bridge crew watched the main screen. They were mesmerized by the sheer audacity of it all. Blasting classical music at an elder race of destroyers. It was either the bravest thing humanity had ever done, or the most foolish. The music swelled, a tempest of harmony and rhythm. It filled every corner of the bridge. Then, on the screen, something happened. One of the smaller Silenti vessels, a sleek, dagger-shaped ship, began to flicker. Its black hull seemed to pulse with a sickly internal light. Its energy signature, once a flat line of immense power, began to fluctuate wildly. It looked like a heart monitor going into cardiac arrest. The tactical officer shouted, "Captain, enemy vessel losing power." Everyone leaned forward. The flickering intensified. The ship's movements became erratic. It tumbled end over end, no longer in control. Then, as the symphony reached a thunderous crescendo, the alien ship went dark. Completely dark, all lights extinguished, all energy readings flatlined. It was just a dead piece of metal, drifting in the silence between notes. The bridge was utterly quiet for a moment. The only sound was the soaring orchestra from the speakers. A crew member broke the silence. What just happened? You knew. Their minds, their logical, rigid minds, could not handle the complexity. The music had crashed them, like a virus in a computer. Captain Rostova did not waste a second. She grabbed the fleet-wide comms channel. Her voice rang with a newfound fire. A wild, brilliant hope. "All ships," she commanded. "You heard the specialist. They can't stand our noise. Stop firing weapons. Start broadcasting music." Her order was insane. It was brilliant. "I don't care what you have," she continued, her voice rising. "Broadcast your favorite songs. Play your cultural anthems. Give them rock and roll. Give them opera. Give them everything. Drown them in it." A cheer erupted on the bridge. A wild, joyous sound of people given a new way to fight back. And across the fleet, the message was received. One by one, the ships of the Terran Defense Force fell silent with their weapons. And one by one, they opened a new kind of barrage. From the destroyer, Leonidas, came a blast of heavy metal guitar riffs. From the carrier Nightingale came the soaring voice of an opera diva. Another ship broadcasted ancient sea shanties. It was a beautiful, chaotic mess. A wall of sound. Dozens of different songs, hundreds of different rhythms and melodies, all crashing together in the void. It was the sound of humanity in all its messy, illogical, glorious diversity. It was a chorus of pure, unadulterated defiance. It was the weirdest weapon ever deployed in the history of warfare. The effect on the Salenti fleet was immediate, and it was catastrophic. Their perfect geometric formations broke apart. The ships began to drift aimlessly. Some spun in slow, lazy circles. Others simply stopped, hanging in space like confused animals. The precise surgical strikes on your fleet ceased entirely. You watched the tactical display. The Silenti command structure was collapsing. Their network, which had coordinated their attack with such flawless precision, was now a mess of broken connections. You realized the truth. They weren't just a fleet of ships. They were a collective consciousness, a hive mind, a single vast intelligence distributed among thousands of bodies. They thought as one, acted as one. Their strength was their unity, their perfect shared logic. But it was also their greatest weakness. The music, your chaotic, emotional, unpredictable music, was a poison to that unity. Each song was a different logic stream, a different emotional context, a different set of rules. Their shared mind could not process the contradictions, the overlapping harmonies, the clashing rhythms. It was like shouting a million different questions at a single person at once. Their consciousness was being torn apart, fracturing under the strain of a stimulus it was never designed to encounter. You were not destroying their ships. You were shattering their soul. The symphony of human noise continued to rage, a cosmic concert of rebellion. Suddenly, a new signal cut through the cacophony. It was from the Silenti flagship, the largest of the dark vessels. You braced yourself for another demand, another logical threat. But this was different. It was not a data stream. It was a raw, psychic broadcast, a wave of pure feeling that washed over the bridge. It bypassed your ears and hit your mind directly. There were no words. There was no language. There was only one singular, overwhelming concept: pain. It was the most awful thing you had ever felt. It was the feeling of a mind being ripped into a billion pieces, the agony of a god discovering its own mortality. It was the shriek of a consciousness that had only known cold, clean logic, suddenly drowned in a sea of fire and feeling. It was the sound of terror, pure, undiluted terror. On the bridge, people screamed. They clutched their heads. The psychic backlash was immense. It was the last desperate cry of a dying collective. A final broadcast from a mind that could no longer hold itself together. It was a glimpse into the soul of the Silenti. And all you found there was a screaming, terrified void. The psychic scream faded, leaving a trail of shaken, nauseated humans in its wake. But it had an effect on the Silenti fleet. The remaining ships, the ones that hadn't gone dark, began to move. They moved with a new urgency, a new purpose. They were running. It wasn't a tactical retreat. It wasn't an orderly withdrawal. It was a panicked, desperate flight. Ships turned and burned for deep space. They fled in every direction, like fish scattering from a predator. Their perfect unity was gone, replaced by a singular, instinctual need to escape, to get away from the noise. You watched them go, a broken, terrified remnant of the invincible fleet that had arrived only hours before. They didn't fire a single parting shot. They just ran, fleeing the sound of a violin, running from the beat of a drum, scrambling to escape a power they could not comprehend, a power born not of physics, but of feeling. The human fleet, battered but not broken, let them go. There was no cheer of victory this time, just a stunned silence as the last of the dark ships vanished into the starfield. You had won. You had faced the void, and you had scared it away with a song. Captain Rostova gave the order. Cease broadcast. One by one, the ships of the fleet cut their music. The heavy metal faded. The opera went quiet. The final notes of Beethoven's symphony echoed, and then were gone. Silence returned to the bridge of the Defiance, the same silence that had started the day. But it felt different now. It was no longer the menacing, cold silence of the Silenti. It was your silence, a silence you had earned, a silence filled with the ghosts of music and the memory of a strange, terrifying victory. It felt heavy, weighed down by what you had all just done. The crew slowly picked themselves up. Medics attended to those overwhelmed by the psychic scream. Engineers began assessing the damage to your own battered ships. But mostly, people just stood there, looking at the empty space where the enemy had been, trying to process the impossible truth. You leaned back in your chair. The adrenaline began to fade, leaving a deep, bone-weary exhaustion in its place. You had faced extinction. You had looked into the cold eyes of a logical God, and you had forced it to blink. The silence on the bridge was the sound of survival. Your console was still open to the archive. The simple title, Clair de Lune, glowed on the screen. A piece of music meant to capture the beauty of moonlight. You had turned it into a weapon that didn't break hulls, but broke minds. Was that better? Or was it somehow worse? You had not killed them with plasma and fire. You had tortured them with art. You had inflicted a kind of psychic agony on a vast, ancient consciousness, an agony so profound they had fled from you in terror. You had discovered a fundamental vulnerability in a creature of pure logic, their inability to process emotion. Captain Rostova walked over to your station. She looked down at the screen, then at you. Her face was grim. The elation of victory was gone, replaced by the heavy burden of command. "You saved us all, Specialist," she said quietly. "But you've also given us a terrible new power." She was right. Humanity now possessed a weapon against which there was no shield. A song could now be an act of war. A symphony could be a tool of genocide. Who decided when to use it? What were the rules for this new kind of warfare? The Silenti wanted to correct a statistical error. Had you just become an error of a different kind? Days later, the fleet was limping home. The dead were mourned. The ships were being repaired. A strange new reality was setting in. You sat alone at your console in the quiet of the ship's night cycle. On a private channel, you played the music again. The simple, haunting notes of the piano. It did not sound the same. It was no longer just a beautiful melody. It was the sound of a scream, the sound of a mind shattering, the sound of a victory that felt unsettlingly cruel. You had weaponized beauty. You had militarized peace. The thought left a bitter taste in your mouth. You looked out of the viewport at the endless river of stars. Somewhere out there, the broken remnants of the Silenti were fleeing into the deepest, darkest corners of the galaxy, trying to outrun a sound that was now burned into their collective memory. You wondered if they could still hear it. Could they still hear the piano? Did the echo of a violin haunt their silent thoughts? You had saved your species, but you had also created a monster that lived in a song. And you knew, with a chilling certainty, that the universe would never be quiet again. Not for them, and perhaps not for you either.